Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cappuccino with HR. My name is Rudi Bauer, and after 40 years in business, I'm 100% sure that the success of companies is directly related to the passion of the people working for these companies. With the Cappuccino of HR, we created a format where we really invite people. It's HR leaders, it's recruiters, it's talent acquisition guys, and we're talking about all the different kind of topics. And the range is going from AI, of course, to new work, to leadership, and all the challenges along the way. Yeah, hello and welcome to a new episode of Cappuccino with HR. And today, if you see that my background has changed a little bit, it's not the normal studio setup because I have the really pleasure to be in Amsterdam. So I'm in Mindspace Amsterdam today in one of the nice telephone boxes. And probably the audio is a little bit different than normally, but that is totally compensated, 1000% compensated by my guests today. And I'm really proud and really happy to have Mahmoud Aly with me. He is the TA business partner at Semrush. And we met each other, I think 2 or 3 years ago at a conference. And then we started discussions. And I'm really delighted that it worked out now that we have a kind of a chance to create a common episode of Cappuccino with HR. So Ali, welcome in this episode, and I'm really delighted to have you as a guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Rudi. I'm super excited for this. It's crazy that we met actually. I think, it was 2 years ago and now we're talking. So very, very cool. Very excited.
And there's some really good news at the end of the recording. So please be patient and wait, because I think I have a really cool announcement at the end. But Mahmoud, may I ask you to introduce yourself briefly?
For sure. So my name is Mahmoud. Obviously, I'm originally from Cairo, from Egypt. I moved to the Netherlands about 4 years ago. I live in Amsterdam now. Personally, I love shoes, if it's not obvious already. I used to work at Nike, and obviously comes with benefits. Bought a lot of shoes and I still have shoes all over the house. Love music, and yeah, just a fun guy. Work-wise, I've been working in talent acquisition since 2015. Started off the first 4 years in agencies, and then I kind of wanted to see what happens inside the kitchen. So I switched to in-house, but always had passion for that tech piece. Was always a nerd when it came to data and artificial intelligence. So moved to the Netherlands, and for the past 3 years, I've been working at Nike. I led recruitment for the data and artificial intelligence business across EMEA. And very recently, 2 months ago, I moved to Semrush. And at the moment, I'm one of the talent acquisition business partners for our marketing and retention teams. So yeah, I want to keep it very brief.
Oh, thank you very much. And today we are talking, I mean, it's really fun, because I think we could choose every topic, because with you, I think we could have a discussion on everything. But today, I think we are more or less trying to focus a little bit on talent acquisition, on the changes there, on the use of communities. And of course, I mean, we can't live without AI, because AI is everywhere. Yeah, everybody's talking about AI. And I want to get into this discussion with you. But as it's called Cappuccino with HR, my first question has to be, what is your favorite coffee?
I love coffee. I'm a big coffee guy. My answer would be a very basic answer. In Egypt, we have those things they're called salted caramel lattes, and I absolutely love them. My girlfriend knows every time I visit, like, it's always the thing I always drink. Really, really love it. So that would be.
Okay, very cool. I mean, over the past few years, there was really a lot of changes going on in the market. I mean, there was a kind of a crisis, then there was a kind of booming year. So we met everything. What have you observed from your perspective? What are the key trends that you found out probably throughout the last couple of years in talent acquisition?
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, the market has changed a lot the past couple of years, and a lot of things happened, during the tech boom. Companies were moving really fast. Candidates were mostly in the driving seat, and companies were just moving very quickly, offering, high salaries, bonuses, flexibility, you name it. And I think after that, when things cooled down and a lot of the waves of layoffs that happened in the market, things shifted a little bit. companies became very careful with how they hire. But interestingly enough, you can actually still see candidates in the driving seat. And you're still also asking for a lot of, but I think it kind of changed into more of focusing on flexibility. A lot of people are looking for flexibility now. A lot of transparency when it comes to work and pay and equity in general. So I would say, the change in hiring, I would definitely say it slowed down a lot the past couple of years, compared to 3-4 years ago, for example. But I can still see it coming back a little bit, but it's definitely nowhere near how it was the past couple of years. Another thing, which is a very big thing as well, and I'm very happy about, which is, we can call it a trend, is that skill-based hiring is becoming a thing now, and people are really believing companies are just quickly realizing that degrees don't really mean much anymore, especially in tech. If you can code, if you have the right background, then you get the job. So I'm very happy that there is more openness to non-traditional backgrounds, and how we can actually assess people based on what they can actually do, not what they come from or where they come from. Sorry. So these, I think, are the kind of the biggest two trends. And then, of course, it goes without saying AI and how it's kind of changing the market, and, the automation conversation that goes through all different industries, whether it's HR or tech. But I think that would be a very easy answer to say.
Mm. I mean, in 2019, I mean, many decades before that, I think companies were in the driver's seat, and the candidates were in this kind of asking role, more or less. And then it has changed. In 2019, when I joined with developers in 2020, so I came into this developer environment, or back into this environment, and I had a little bit the impression that candidates ran into the danger to become arrogant. Have you recognized that as well? Because being in the driver's seat always means I'm really bringing the conditions onto the table, and you either take them or leave them. But
Yeah. No, for
do you
sure.
have this feelings, one?
Yeah, well, for sure, absolutely, and especially good engineers, or like, I'm going to talk about tech now, especially the good ones, or the very good ones. They know they're very good, and they know by companies reaching out to them and people really wanting to poach them. So definitely seen it, and I can assure you that all recruiters have seen this before. And like, again, with how the market changed suddenly, and how I can still say that candidates are still in the driving seat, but not as much as they used to before. That kind of dynamic is slowly shifting a little bit. But definitely noticed how it could get a little bit arrogant at some point. But it's all part of the game, and it's all part of how a recruiter can actually navigate those conversations with candidates.
And do you see it a little bit better balanced now with the layoffs? And I mean, everybody has seen, okay, I'm not 100% safe in my job, and it could also happen to me as even if I'm a good developer, because there were a lot of layoffs during the last couple of years, especially in the bigger organizations. I normally always love to see kind of conversation and communication on eye level, as I call it. So if it's really balanced, then the people are really talking on the same kind of level, and nobody becomes too much arrogant because of being in the driver's seat. So do you see that as well, that there's a new kind of harmonization and balance out in the market?
No, for sure. There's a lot of, and I hate to say this, but there's a lot of amazing talents on the market looking for jobs because of the layoff rounds that happened. And, it's obviously something that I'm not happy about, but it's what happens at a market. Definitely, there is a little bit of balance at the moment where, as a recruiter, I wouldn't say it's that easy, but you can actually find candidates that are very good who would be looking for a new job because of a layoff round, or they switch jobs and they're not happy anymore there. So definitely it's getting a little bit easier. And again, it kind of navigate that conversation with candidates. But I always say, if you're a good recruiter and you know how to actually pitch, but also how to not sell to candidates, but advise them, talk to them. It's more of a conversation. And I always say it's, good recruitment is less transactional and more partnership. If you're on that side and if you're able to have those conversations with candidates, it would always feel, like you said, harmonized and, eye level, like you mentioned.
Hmm. I mean, if you mentioned an interesting thing as aspect now. You said transactional, not transactional, but more kind of conversational and being in conversation, being a partner as a recruiter. How can AI support this? Because I mean, my learning or my experience with AI is it's really good in doing transactional stuff for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But how is it with the other side?
Um, because it does though, like so I think, I'm gonna talk about my area. So it's not an acquisition. Bringing AI and automation into the conversation, it's fantastic, right? It's very good, because it really helps you to elevate that human touch, to elevate that human perspective of recruitment. You don't really have to worry about doing the admin stuff. You don't have to take notes by talking to candidates. You can actually fully focus on what someone is saying, and because of all of the opportunities that automation gives you, it really creates that space where you can be less transactional and more conversational, more partnership, more advising. And that's just one piece. There's a lot of other stuff that AI brings to the table and will bring to the table in the future that will elevate that part even more and kind of really push recruiters from the non-traditional way of doing the job, which is transactional. Here's what I can give you, here's what you can give me, to more it's more of an advisor role, it's more of a partner role. And that's what I love the most about the automation piece.
Hmm. What kind of tools are you using in your daily job at the moment if it comes to AI? Can you
We're
explain?
Yeah, for sure. So, and I do have to say, we're still looking into a lot of different things. To be honest, I wouldn't say it's a mature environment yet. We're looking at different tools when it comes to note taking. I think that's the first thing we kind of asked for, or we pushed for, because of how good it can be when talking to candidates, especially on a senior level. So that's one of the tools we're looking at. We're obviously looking at a lot of different automating tools, from emails to scheduling interviews. So a lot of different small but tedious tasks that we don't want to be doing. So we're looking at different tools that can help us with that. But I honestly wouldn't say we're still a mature environment yet when it comes to AI. But I think hopefully the next step for us is to kind of build agents that can help us do a lot of the other tedious tasks that we're doing at the moment.
Mhm. Do, do, I mean, if I understand it right, I think, and my understanding is that this one fits all approach that companies try to roll out for many, many years in recruiting and in all the other parts of the organization as well, that has definitely gone. So I think we're in the phase of having individualized approaches towards candidates because, I mean, if you look on developers, I mean, in 2019, when we did our survey, I think the clear message was, okay, if you're a big brand and if you're paying high salaries, we are good to go with you. In the meantime, we found out that there's a lot of different kind of needs and expectations from different kind of candidates. So
Yeah.
it's either well-being or it's inclusion or it's purpose or it's kind of career-related development options that you're offering as a company and make it clear and transparent. So the first thing what's definitely needed is to understand the individual needs of the candidates
Yeah.
before you can start talking to them, because if you don't know what they're really reflecting on, it's very difficult to convince them.
Yeah.
So how do you think there's a chance that AI will, in weeks or years or months from now, support us there? At the moment, I have a little bit the impression that AI is used to get rid of things we do not want to do ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do you think there will be solutions where AI could help us to better understand the individual needs of the candidates?
Look, Rudy, it's an excellent question, honestly, and like that's my thing with AI at the moment. Like I always say, AI is fantastic. I'm team AI all the way. But I also always say, you can automate stuff. It's great to automate things, but you cannot automate everything. You take away that human touch of it, and the process gets very robotic. One of the things that, I've been reading a couple of articles the past couple of weeks. I've seen a couple of reports or surveys where they ask candidates, would you rather have the first call with an AI instead of a person, just to answer your questions quickly, and then you're able to determine if you want to move forward, and then for us on the other side to just filter out candidates? And funny enough, the biggest percentage said no. They said that's not for me. I do need to speak to a person because they can actually understand the needs that you mentioned. They can understand what I want. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's not always like that within recruitment. So I have high hopes. We're still, AI is not new. It's been on the market now for a couple of years, but we still have so many years in front of us to advance and to kind of bring it to that next level. I If you ask me today, I would say no. I don't think AI is going to replace that partnership piece or actually elevate it. They will elevate it from a different way, from automating tedious tasks, but from actually understanding candidates' needs, understanding difficult situations with hiring managers. And if you ask me now, I would say no. But with AI, I can expect anything. So
Yeah, yeah. Same with me. I'm also a big fan of AI. I'm really curious about what's going on. But I think yeah, if you look on all the studies and all the results that I've seen in the last 12, 15 years, probably, I think the end of the day, the problem was mainly that it was missing appreciation, it was missing trust in organization, it was missing failure culture to really work HR, because HR means trial and error. And I think we are expecting that from our employees, but we're not giving them the appreciation. We're not giving them the trust, and we don't. We have a kind of a really shitty failure culture in Europe. So I'm probably,
yeah,
and honestly, I'm not 100% sure if that could be digitalized. Yeah. So
yeah,
I have my doubts, because this is really human issues. Yeah,
yeah,
and being treated as a human from an AI engine, yeah, probably is a kind of a mistake in itself. But I'm not too sure, and I'm
yeah.
really curious. I want to
Okay.
switch to a slightly other topic now,
Mhm.
because I know that you have built a kind of an agile recruiting community. And you told me that when we met the last time, and I was really fascinated by the approach. I mean, I'm working for a company now since 5 years who is doing the same on a
Yeah,
worldwide base in the meantime, because and there's a reason for that. I think going into communities, for me, if we are trying to deal with passive candidates, needs probably different mechanics than what we as companies have learned during the past decades. I mean, we were using job boards, we were using kind of job ads that we have thrown out in the market on different kind of channels, and then we were waiting for candidates.
yeah, yeah,
This works perfectly fine if you have a lot of active candidates out in the market. If you have to deal with passive candidates, what we in the developers environment have since years. So I mean, most of the developers have got a job, even if there's some people now because of the layoffs looking for jobs. But they are, if they leave one door, there's three doors opening at the same time where they probably can step in quickly.
yeah.
So, what's your take on working with communities, and what is your experience in building up a community? What have you, what's your kind of take up this on this?
Communities, it's something that I've been very deeply interested in from a very long time, and it's something that really impacted me in so many different ways, from creating one, but also from being in several. Um, Communities at the moment, and as something I actually was discussing with some people the past week, is that it's becoming a big trend at the moment. There's a lot of new communities that are coming on the market, and like, I don't hate it. Like, I love having communities on board, and more communities in different areas. If I'll talk about the ERC one, the one that we created, the whole idea behind it, and there was actually no community when I started this thing. It all started when I moved to the Netherlands. I came here, and then I started seeing all of those meetups and all of those communities and events, and I always wanted to attend them all, because when I moved here, I also didn't really know a lot of people, so I needed to build a name for myself. And by attending, like, it was amazing, first of all, the amount of people that I've met, it was incredible. People that I wouldn't normally meet on a day-to-day life, but also the how they're nice to each other, how they help each other, how they ask and answer questions. Like, I was really fascinated by that. And I said to myself, I would have loved to have that when I was still back home in Egypt. Um, And then I waited for a couple of years until I was like, all right, I do have the resources and I have the right network. Why not start something back home? And the whole idea in the beginning, it wasn't a community, it was just a meetup. That's all I wanted to do. Went to LinkedIn and I asked, hey, can anybody support me with setting up a meeting or a meetup? And is there actually anyone who wants to attend? Within days or a week, we have the event set up. The event was already fully booked. And when we did it, we had so many people on the waiting list and so many reached out to us and they were like, hey, like I really want to attend. Please do this again. And that's how I created the idea of ERC, because people really were hungry for something like that. And the reason is it was the first time that they actually have a space to feel like they belong to, and a space where they can ask questions, help each other, or get help from other people. And that was the whole point of ERC. And the whole reason why I did it is that I just would have loved to have this when I was still back home, and now that I can, I just want to do it for someone else. So communities, the impact of it is absolutely amazing. The stuff that we do at the moment and the feedback that I've received is honestly very heartwarming, and it's the main reason why I keep doing it and why me and the team also keep pushing for it.
Mhm. Do you plan to roll it out further geographically?
It's very hard to roll it out in different countries when it's called Egypt Recruiting Community. So I don't know how can we work around that. But at the moment, our vision is to be the biggest community for talent professionals in Egypt. And thankfully we are kind of there at the moment, but we still have so many people to reach. We're more than 750 people at the moment in the community, but there is, I think, more than 32,000 recruiter in in Cairo. So we still have a long way to go. Our biggest focus at the moment is to bring more partnerships in, to bring more companies and opportunities in front of our community members, and to just keep doing events and reaching more people. That's our biggest focus at the moment. For the future, you never know. I actually thought, I spoke to a couple of people who have communities here in the Netherlands about maybe crossing over and doing like a joint event. So the idea is on the table, but maybe I just don't know exactly how it will work for now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think we have exactly the same experience. I mean, I think the biggest value of a community is that the people are exchanging their thoughts, they are reducing their knowledge.
Yeah.
And I mean, we started with a new format, and Ivana, who is in the back at this podcast as well. I mean, she was setting up or started setting up a new format which is called HR Meetup, and we're doing that regularly in the locations where we are currently proactively working on the markets. It's Netherlands, it's Germany, and it's Austria.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing what I enjoy most if I'm participating is the exchange with young people. There's so many young talents coming into the business now, and they have brilliant ideas. They have brilliant kind of thoughts, and they are really trying to find new modern ways of solving issues. And honestly, if you look on all the HR conferences that I've seen in the last couple of years, and I've been at a lot of them, it's always the same kind of people on stages, and that's really boring because I mean there's no real space for young talents, and with communities you can really bring new faces, new minds, and new mindsets onto stages, and I think that is what I really love most at the moment.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Uh, with all the digital transformation happening, and honestly, when I came into the HR business 10 years ago, or a little bit more than 10 years, 12 years probably, uh, I had this kind of personal impression that HR was continuously looking for new buzzwords to be afraid of. Yeah, so it was kind of, there was always at every conference there was a new buzzword, and everybody was talking about this new buzzword. Now, of course, it's AI. Uh, what do you miss most if you look on companies, if you look on talent attraction, if you look on retention, because I think retention is extremely important as well, because if you don't lose the people on the way, you need not to look for new ones, which is probably the easier being a big part of the solution already. What is your take? How could we get closer to the real needs of the people? I mean, my grandmother was a really simple person. She had just 3 years of school, I think. Then she had started working, and she always said communication brings people together.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And honestly, like what I was thinking of is kind of something on the same line. It's, I would always say personalization. If you don't personalize how people interact with you, and how also you interact with other people, whether those are just normal audience or applicants in this context, then you don't really understand what they need. Several companies that I've worked with, is we join and we look at our EVP, for example. What do we offer our people? What's our USP? How can we sell it, our company? And we noticed that we have just one approach, and that one approach could work very well with tech people, but for talent acquisition people or HR, it doesn't really work. Or it could work very well with um, talents until like a senior specialist level, but then when you go higher, it doesn't really work the same. So we always try to have different types of communication levels, and that's what I kind of mean by personalization, and that's how you really get closer to the ones you're talking to. The one thing I miss the most is, companies, like I mentioned, they have one tone of voice, and I definitely believe you should have one tone of voice. But when it comes to talking to candidates, when it comes to selling specific products, you really need to cater it to that specific audience you're selling to. A very small example is, because I was actually discussing this week, when you post a job descriptions of senior executives, they're very different from a job description of a recruiter or a sales specialist.
Mm.
You cannot write a chief financial officer or a senior director's job description with, here are the tasks, here's what you need to do. You need to start with a story. Tell me the story behind it. Tell me
Yeah.
what's the pitch, like pitch it to me. Tell me what's exciting, because for them, they don't care about the pay, they don't care about the seniority. Maybe they care about the impact and the story and the influence of that role. So that's exactly how you can write a job description that would cater to them. Same thing in an interview. If I interview a junior person, I wouldn't interview them the same way as I was interview a senior executive. It's completely different. I don't start by interviewing them. I actually tell them about the company to see if they even want to talk to me or not. So different approaches is super important when communicating with, especially external people, when it comes to the communication in general.
Mm. But that's for me, that means we need a kind of a multi-level EVP then. So it's a kind of a individualized EVP for every part of the target audiences that we want to face and then want to talk to, right?
Yeah, and it could be. Of course, we're not talking about 12 different EVPs in a company.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be the main umbrella, but then different
Yeah.
brands underneath that fits within different types of audience or different target audiences.
But what does it mean for organizations? Because as an organization, I mean, I think it's tough enough to really understand the EVP and to learn storytelling and to pitch this kind of thing. Because honestly, for me, HR, and that is not meant negatively, but it's the nature of the situation. It came from purchasing department structure. So I mean, HR was buying a resource on the market as quick as possible, as cheap as possible, as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And now we are coming into a totally marketing mindset. My background is really in marketing, so I was working in marketing and advertising for quite some years, and I have a really marketing education and marketing background. And understanding target audiences, I mean, that's the basic thing what you learn in marketing. Yeah. Really going down to the individual person, understanding target audiences and separate these groups and find the right approach to address them.
Yep.
How could you implement that in understaffed HR organizations? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because normally there's not enough resources, there's not enough, not knowledge, but I mean, being individual or understanding the individual needs means also to get the resources to really work on that, because you need to talk to the people, you need to understand them, you need to have a developer relations guy. If you wanted to attract developers, you probably need one guy who is really explaining to you as HR what these guys really, what was really exciting for them, what they really are looking for, what really attracts them.
Yeah, no, for sure. Look, you don't need a full team. You don't need an army to be able to build an EVP. Honestly, all you need to do is, or all you need is to know your company. You're really passionate about what you guys do, and just resourceful. One of the very easy things we already tapped into is communities. If you know communities within the development space, go there. Talk to people there. That takes no money. It takes no time. Just understand how people are feeling, how's the market, what did they do in their companies. All of that is for free, and it doesn't really need a lot of time, or it doesn't need a lot of people. The one thing that always it feels like a miss with companies is a lot of them, they go externally and they just pay an agency to come do their EVP, but they don't know who you are. No one will ever be able to talk about your house other than the ones who are living inside. So I'm all against, honestly, getting an external agency just to be quick. Hey, formulate an EVP for us, write us
Yeah,
some nice values that sounds nice. That will never work. That will always
yeah,
be the wrong direction that a lot of companies have done before. Um,
mm,
Also, another topic is right now, whether you like it or not, Gen Zs are entering the market. They are in the market now. You need to
yeah,
change your approach. Things that would have worked for you or would have worked for me might not work for Gen Z talents anymore. So you
definitely.
definitely need a rebranding anyways to be able to
Mm,
attract those talents. So there's a lot of things that you could go in that direction, but honestly, you don't really need a full team with different titles and different seniority levels. You don't need all of that. It could be done by someone who's just passionate about the brand and
mm,
understands what's inside the house and knows what we can actually provide externally.
yeah. And that I think was a really cool closing statement already, because it brings me to the final announcement that I was talking at the beginning. Uh, that is the reason why we attached a kind of an HR Leaders Summit to our We Are Developers World Congress in July in Berlin. And I think the idea was exactly that what you mentioned. Go into a community, breathe the same air than this guy's there, because if you breathe the same kind of air, you probably get a kind of a glue and an understanding of what really attracts these guys.
Yeah.
And I'm really honored, and really, it's a really great pleasure for us to have you with us in Berlin from 9th to 11th of July. So Mahmoud will be in our main stage, HR Leaders Summit main stage. And could you give a quick brief view on a quick kind of appetizer what you will be talking there?
For sure. Super excited to be there, Rudy. Really, really excited. Always heard about the summit and always wanted to be there. So cannot wait. My talk, the title of my talk is called Stories from an Unsuccessful Recruiter. It's a bit of a witty talk, but if you ever saw me present, that's normally how I like to present. The story or the presentation, it's basically going to be storytelling. I'm not going to come and teach you something new. I'm sure the attendees who are coming, they already know a lot, and they're already very, very good at what they do. What I want to do is just kind of bring a fresh perspective into, or a reminder actually, into the stuff that we do and the mistakes that we could make in our work. And it will just be a reminder of the very small things that you can actually get wrong in your job, that no matter how senior you can be. So the story or the talk is going to be different stories from my career when I started until now, where I failed miserably, where I did things wrong, or where I learned a very good lesson, but in a hard way. So that would be my talk. Expected to be funny, expected to be a little bit witty, but expected to be definitely be hopefully memorable.
And I'm really looking forward to it. Mahmoud, thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and experience. And dear audience, hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did during the recording. It was great fun for me, and stay tuned. And Mahmoud, thank you very much again.
Of course.
See
Thank you for
you.
having me, Rudy. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye. Thank you for watching Cappuccino with HR. If you enjoy this kind of conversations, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Then you get all this kind of upfront information, new upcoming episodes, and all my nice guests. Cappuccino with HR is brought to you by We Are Developers, Europe's #1 developer community and a leading platform for connecting HR and companies together with developers. If you want to learn more, visit us on wearedevelopers.com. Thank you again for watching, and see you next time on Cappuccino with HR.